Welcome back to the channel. It's been a little while. We are going to catch up today. We're going to talk Bitcoin and we're going to talk Cardano. All right, this was going to be just a Bitcoin video, but today the plan is we're going to go over Bitcoin, we're going to go over Cardano, and tomorrow we're going to go over eGold and we're going to go over Ethereum. There's a lot going on with all four of these assets, so I'm splitting them into two different videos and giving us a time to go over each of them to give you some much needed updates and TA on all of them so you have an idea of what I'm seeing and what to expect. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and make sure you check the description below and grab my Twitter link. There was recently a big DeFi hack that happened with Poly Network. Now, there's been a lot of confusion along this, and I want to explain it to you. If you were following me on Twitter, you would have seen that I'd already given you an explanation on Twitter, but just so everyone is very clear on this, the Poly Network hack was the largest DeFi hack in history, pretty much. $600 million in assets. Pretty much what the biggest confusion here is that people have been thinking that Poly Network and Polygon are the same thing. Polygon obviously is the blockchain where Matic is the primary token that's used on that blockchain. Well, Poly Network is not the same as Polygon. Poly Network is a cross-chain DeFi platform that does interoperability between a number of different blockchains, including Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and Polygon. The only thing that Poly Network has that's similar to Polygon is the fact that its name contains poly in it. So that's pretty much the only thing that's the same between them. The issue is that yesterday when this occurred, a lot of people started selling their Matic. And I told you on my Twitter, like, you need to be careful because you're selling your Matic when this has nothing to do with Matic. It would have been the same thing as selling your Ethereum or selling your BNB as selling your Matic, because Poly Network is a DeFi platform. It does not have its own native token. It has nothing to do directly with the Polygon blockchain. So make sure you're aware of that, and make sure you follow me on Twitter for updates like this and TA updates. Let's get started. That was just the beginning information that I wanted to address. Okay, so we are going to switch over to the charts and we are going to take a look at things. So the first thing to really note on the chart today is, well, pretty much this is the 4-hour chart. And the biggest thing to note on the Bitcoin side of things is the fact that Bitcoin has been maintaining very bullish momentum. I mean, if you take a look, since the time that we were at 29K on the 21st of July, not very long ago, we pretty much have started a major uptrend, and we have been maintaining over this 20 exponential moving average on the 4-hour chart the entire time. We have dipped below and touched it a few times. We dipped below it once. We had a correction from about 42,000 down to a low of 37,000 on August the 5th, so about 6 days ago. And that took us below the 20 exponential, it took us below the 50 exponential, which is the orange line, and it got support on the 100 exponential, which is actually really good. That shows that we had a ton of support, and then we boosted up again, and now we've been sitting on top of the 20 again. Well, pretty much what you would expect to see here is you would expect to see either one of two things happening. If the bullish momentum continues, which is very possible that it would, you would likely see that we continue staying above the 20 exponential moving average. Because we had one correction here where we touched the 100 again, I definitely think that it's possible for that to happen. But if it was to happen again, it would probably likely happen in the same way. It would be a multi-day correction, maybe over 24 to 48 hours as we start dipping and these moving averages start turning. So I would keep an eye on that. I mean, if that happens and we start moving down like this, you probably see it come down to around 43 from where it is right now. And you'd see the 100 exponential go up to that much. So the corrections have been pretty small because people have not been wanting to sell their Bitcoin. There is a supply shock going on with Bitcoin. We've talked about that before. I would say watch my prior Bitcoin video on the topic if you want to understand how the supply shock works, what illiquid price means, or what illiquid supply means, and how you can look at exchange reserves and things like that to determine if a supply shock is happening. The supply shock is happening. Now, granted, with Bitcoin, what happened in the Senate is not really a good thing, right? The Senate basically passed the infrastructure bill with no changes to the crypto amendment, which pretty much makes it impossible for miners and DeFi validators to comply with the rules. So that's a pretty big blow for crypto, but the market hasn't reacted to it yet, is because of one simple reason. it also has to pass through the House. And when it goes to the House, we expect that it won't pass through. And the reason for that is because now there is a lot more pushback from not only the crypto community, but all the financial innovators in the country that are working in some shape or form with crypto. And you also have certain organizations and institutions that are looking to invest in crypto as an inflation hedge. And if they're doing that, they are likely going to be looking for these things to get resolved in the House. So keep that in mind. And regardless, even if everything passes, it wouldn't go into effect until 2023. So there's plenty of time to figure things out, but the vote in the House is going to be very important. So keep an eye on the politics. That's all very important. It's all related to the inflation grabbing infrastructure bill that's looking to print tons of money. So it's kind of ironic that in that same bill, they're trying to, essentially it's the Treasury that's trying to push these changes that are going to negatively impact crypto. And you have to think of who's doing this, like who's in charge of the Treasury? Well, it's Janet Yellen. One of the interesting pieces of information I found very recently is that Janet Yellen makes $224,000 a year as her government salary, but last year alone, she was paid $7 million by Citibank to do speaking engagements. I mean, if that's not being overpaid, and if that doesn't seem like a conflict of interest, when you're literally the one who is holding keys at a high level to print large amounts of money and affect monetary policy that are helping banks, and then banks are paying you millions, it seems very, very weird. It seems very, very strange that this is legal and it's not considered a conflict of interest. So I would definitely think that there's a lot of shadiness going on with trying to get this passed. And I definitely think that people that see the future of this industry and how it could bring a lot of revenue into the United States would be able to make the case to take this out of the infrastructure bill. So I think that it's not going to get through the House the way that it is without some amendments. And that's kind of where I stand on that. That's why I think the market has not been impacted. Anyways, for the short term, if we're looking at targets, I'm looking for downside targets at the moving averages on the 4 hour. That would give us around 45,000 even, and it would also give us around 43,006. That also is this dashed line in the middle that you see is kind of our median line of this entire large long-term Fibonacci retracement, and it happens to sit right on the 50 exponential moving average. So that tells me 44,000 is a very key level. We don't really want to fall below that. So if we have a correction and we do fall below 44K, then we're looking at this Fibonacci line at around 41,700 as being the next support. So these are the downside targets. I don't really expect it to go much further than that, but we should keep an eye on it. And right now, there's no indication that that's going to happen. If anything, it seems like we're consolidating and we're probably going to have a jump up higher. So let's look at our higher targets. Our higher targets right now are sitting at around 48,000 for resistance, and then above that, all the way at around 51,000. And now we're going to switch to the daily so you can see some of these a little bit better, and you can look at the volume. So if you look at the volume on the right-hand side, this is the volume profile for about the last 4 or 5 months. We'll extend it out a little bit more to give us more data, but you'll see here that we're trading in an area that previously did not have a lot of volume. So actually coming back down to around 42K is not a bad thing, right? Because we'd be putting in more volume in this area. And that's always good. You want to add a little additional volume, but it also shows us that at that level, at around 41,000 to 42,000, we have a ton of support because this is our support underneath us. So there's a lot of support underneath us, and we would expect that support to be between 41 and 42K if we were to fall. Now, ahead of us, the resistance is really anywhere between 48,000 to 50,000. So that correlates with the numbers I gave you previously and our regression channel. So look at the longer term. All right, if you look at the longer term, these dotted lines that go across the entire thing are our regression channel. And you can really see that on the weekly, right? Those are our regression channels. So if you look at the weekly chart, you can see that we are coming up to this regression channel here. We bounced essentially off of this regression channel. We wicked below it. We traded below it for a while at around 32K when we were down to 29. Well, now we have started to move back up. If you start to look at this on the much, much longer term, it's starting to show you something very similar to the past, right? You saw us come down here, you saw us trade at a bottom regression channel, we then bounce back up, and we hit resistance at the top regression channel. So I would expect the same thing to happen here. I would expect that as we move up, we'll likely hit resistance at the 50K level. And after we hit 50K, one of two things is going to happen, right? Either Bitcoin gets so bullish that it just breaks right through it, or it sees what would likely be the more logical scenario. It sees resistance. So you'd expect to see some resistance here and then a drop back to maybe 44, 45,000. That is definitely possible. If we go back to a much longer time frame, and we're almost done with Bitcoin, we're going to get onto Cardano in a minute. If we go onto a much longer time frame and we look at what happened here, we went parabolic up to the next regression channel, and then we only traded sideways a little bit and we kept going parabolic. That was in the current bull run. So if we see the same thing happen again, it would basically mean that as we hit the 50 to 51,000 mark, we trade sideways for a couple of weeks, and then we break out to 60, 70,000. And that would put us somewhere in October to mid-October that we start hitting new all-time highs. That kind of correlates with what everyone has really been saying that is a big analyst in this space. The chart is agreeing with all of the major analysis that you see from Plan B, Willy Woo, Will Clement, like all these people that are doing a lot of on-chain analysis have been predicting this for months. So the fact that we're seeing something very similar leads credence to the fact that that might be what happens. So keep an eye on things right now. The main thing isn't even really whether we hit resistance at 48. The main thing is, how do we react with 50? When we hit 50K, that's the top of this regression channel, right? It's about a week out. It's about a week to a week and a half out, August the 16th, right? So about a week. If by August the 16th, we're hitting 50,000, 51,000, how do we react, right? If we go into a sideways consolidation between like 47 to 48,000 and 50,000, and we keep the bullish momentum, we don't have a bigger drop, well, that's a good indication that very soon, towards the end of August or towards early October, that we were likely going to have a breakout and start hitting new all-time highs. And then all the dynamics change, because once we break 65,000, there is no more data for us to do a lot of chart analysis, right? We don't have any historical information at that price. We're going to be back in a blue sky breakout. Anything can happen there, and we just have to make the best predictions that we can. That's it for Bitcoin. Let's move on to Cardano and then wrap up today's video. Okay, so with Cardano, the chart's looking pretty awesome. Let's go over to the weekly chart so you can get a good idea of what's been happening on the regression channels. I mean, you can see that the regression channel for this has been insanely bullish. Since we hit the lows of around 2 cents, 1 cent back in April of 2020, now we are sitting at $1.79. Insane returns for people who bought last March, right? I started buying it around 10, 11 cents, and the returns have been amazing for me as well. But the returns for someone who got in that early are just astronomical. And now we are essentially at a point where we see this is our long-term golden pocket, this blue line. And not only did we bounce off of the blue line, but we kept putting in higher lows on the entire golden pocket. We never came back and went into it. And now we're breaking out, and we're not too far away from all-time highs. I mean, the price right now is $1.79, and Cardano's all-time high is sitting at around $2.46, somewhere around there. So it's not super far away from there. It hit resistance at the key Fibonacci retracement level. You can see that here. We're looking at the weekly chart, bear in mind, and I'm going to switch over to the daily so you get a little bit more candle data. So you can see here that with this uptrend, we have now hit resistance exactly at the $1.88 level. That is our Fibonacci retracement line. And the key now is to see over the next couple of days, do we break past that? If we don't, if we hit resistance there again, well, then there's a good chance that Cardano consolidates back down to around the 154 level, because that is our previous Fibonacci retracement as well. And we can see when we hit new all-time highs and we came down, we definitely got support on those areas. We fell through it and we came back up above it numerous times. So we really need to flip that area as key support. And then what you'll likely see, if that was to happen, right? If the price moves like this and it gains support here and then it keeps moving up, you'll likely see this start happening with the volume. You'll see a lot more volume come in at this $1.50 level. People will start accumulating. So I think right now a lot of people are waiting for that to happen, and you have a lot of people that are taking profits. So that's why you're seeing a little bit of a dip today from the $1.88 level back to the $1.78 level. So keep an eye on things. Cardano is looking very bullish, and the reason why Cardano is skyrocketing was explained very well in a Motley Fool article of all places. I don't listen to Motley Fool often, but they got this right. So at least this is good information. So it says here on August 10th, Charles Hoskinson, the founder of Cardano and the co-founder of Ethereum, said he would pinpoint an exact date for the announcement of the Alonzo hard fork this Friday. After the fork, Cardano would enable the execution of smart contracts on its network, enabling transactions between parties without using an intermediary. The update will place Cardano on par with Ethereum in this aspect is set to launch before the Cardano Summit in September. That's pretty big. So pretty much the reason Cardano has had this massive boost is because yesterday, Charles Hoskinson, the founder of Cardano, said he's going to pick a date for when the Alonzo hard fork is going to hit, and he's going to inform everyone this coming Friday. That's a couple of days away. After that, Cardano is going to be able to implement the use of smart contracts. So it's going to be basically now an actual true competitor to Ethereum. So that's mainly why you're seeing Cardano start blasting through today, because this information started coming, and it started coming early. I mean, I think you had a general uptrend from the lows along with Bitcoin here, and then you have this area August 8th, 9th, 10th, where everything was normal, right? It was consolidating, and now it's suddenly boosted all the way up after Charles Hoskinson made that announcement. So smart contracts could be coming to Cardano much sooner than people expected. No one expected for him to give this information right away. And also, if it possibly could happen before September, well, that's only about a month away, right? So that's very, very soon that this could potentially be active on the Cardano blockchain, smart contract. So we'll find out soon. I would say that if his release date is not till next year or something like that, he says, oh, smart contracts will be available a year from now or whatever, well, Cardano is likely going to correct at that point, and I would expect it to get support, major support at the $1.50 level, because that's where it had pumped to in this resurgence without this information. So the pump really occurred. This smart contract information took Cardano from about $1.50 to $1.88 until it hit support. If they find out that that's not going to happen for another year, well, then people are going to be like, well, maybe next year it'll be delayed. And then people will start selling whoever bought via speculation here. And you'll likely see the price come back down to around the 145 to 150 level. Keep that in mind. This Friday is going to be key for Cardano when we get that information. As far as downside targets and upside targets, well, downside targets, I can say right now, $1.50 is a good level of support. And below that, it's all the way down here at $1.26, where you have the major support. So the reason I would say $1.40 is because that's where we were consolidating before this news came out, and then we jumped up. Prior to that, we have major support here based on our volume profile. So those are the downside targets, depending on what happens. Now, if on Friday he says that smart contracts are going to be available very soon, well, then I think what you're going to see is you're going to see Cardano not only break the all-time high of 250, probably sometime next week, but I feel like it would probably break into the $3 range in about a week or two if smart contracts are coming soon. So keep that in mind. As of right now, it's a little bit of a gamble because we don't know which way it's going to go. We don't know what type of information is going to come back. So expect a lot of volatility coming from Cardano in the short-term future based on the news that comes out with smart contracts. Now, another thing to keep in mind with Cardano is with this rise, the RSI has become severely overextended. If you take a look here, you can see the RSI for Cardano is sitting right now at about 81 on the daily. Well, that's a very overextended level. And the problem with that is that, you know, at this point, with it being that overextended, you would expect some type of consolidation over multiple days. I would assume that this means we see a little bit more consolidation, at least back down to the 70 level on the daily chart. We've kind of seen that in the past, right? If you look at the historical information for Cardano, you go back and you start to see as it reaches these levels, you know, it tends to come back down. You know, you've seen that numerous times. Only one time did it really break above and hit a new all-time high. But this has been a far more parabolic move from the bottom of the daily RSI all the way to overextended in a much shorter time than we've seen historically. It's difficult to predict how this is going to play out, especially if some major news is coming for the Cardano blockchain. So keep that in mind. Technicals tell us that we should be expecting a consolidation. But this is a situation where the technicals don't matter as much as the news of the blockchain, the fundamentals. So the fundamentals could totally break the technicals and we could see some major upside. Keep it in mind, that's pretty much all you need to know for Cardano. The other thing that I would say just to remember with Cardano is on the daily chart, you have a number of golden crosses occurring right now. And, you know, that's a very good thing to see. You're basically seeing all of the moving averages in the order they're supposed to be for the first time. It's one of the few that has had these golden crosses already, and that's usually a sign of very bullish activity. But if the news doesn't play out in favor of what everyone's expecting, expect to drop back down to like the 140 level. I think that's a safe level to expect a drop to come back. On the upside, impossible to predict, but I would say if smart contracts are coming soon and that's confirmed by Charles Hoskinson and they set a date, you're more than likely going to see Cardano hitting new all-time highs. Thank you for joining me today. Tomorrow we're going to go over eGold and Ethereum. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, make sure you follow, and follow me on Twitter. Get other updates there. There are a lot of times that I don't put a video out for like a week, and in that time I'm usually updating Twitter daily, and I'm giving you a lot of good information there and talking to a lot of community members. It's a lot of fun. Keep that in mind. I actually completed a lot of personal things that I needed to. I was doing a certification. I recently took it and passed it, so that's really good. And now I'm going to start refocusing on my interview with Sever from Elrond, so we can get him on the show and we can do our first interview on this channel and find out some great information from him. I'm also going to plan to do something with Wesley Kress down in the future. He does a lot of great fundamental analysis for Elrond, so I'll be very interested in working out some kind of collab with him. I'm not really sure what we're going to do, but we'll figure it out, and it'll be something really good that everyone will enjoy. Make sure you like, make sure you subscribe. Thank you for joining me. Have a wonderful day. See you tomorrow. Peace.